All right, we are live. Can you hear me out there? It's interesting because I didn't even get a chance to push go live. It just did it. So let me know if you can hear me. I see some people in the room. K Ray says, let me go ahead and click my like button for Eric Tells Us 10 million times. Thank you, K Ray. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yes, K Ray. By the way, TH advertisement. Good stuff being front row seat. We're going to pull you up on stage next. All right, you hear me? Loud and clear? Excellent, excellent. That's great. My sound is coming in. By the way, K Ray, another thing. Oh, Maria, I like your tree. It's growing nice. Another thing, K Ray, what do I always tell you guys when you first come on board? What else? Thank you, Giant Hawaiian. What's your industry? What's your city? Your state? Tell us what business you're in. All right, let us know. Drop that in the chat. Let people know who you are. Right? We'll probably get up to 75 people. So exchange info. Let folks know who's here. We've got a Brooklyn investor in the room. We've got a Giant Hawaiian in the room. We've got Queen Lee. Tell me your industry, tell me your space so we can shout you out. All right? Ron Day's here. Freight broker out of Houston, Texas. Welcome. By the way, before you guys ask me, on my screen, govconeric.com/join is where it takes you the link for our courses. Before you ask. Perfect. All right. Let me know who's here. Let me know who is here and what industry you're in. And before we jump into today's chat, I want you, everyone, please go over today and show our girl some love. All right. Inc. 5000, number 66. We just issued this podcast today. She's number 66 on the Inc. 500 list. America's top fastest growing companies. 5,000% growth. We just released this podcast episode. Go show her some love over on our podcast. Just came out today. All right. If you want to know what it takes to become number 66 fastest growing company in the whole United States of America, okay, go show our girl some love over there. Take a listen to that podcast, an hour long of goodness. What else? What else? Who's in here? The road to 80 paydex score. And I guess I'm an idiot because I don't even know what an 80 paydex score means. So I guess I'm not that smart on the paydex scores. What else? So who we got in the building? We've got a healthcare cyber analyst. We've got someone in law enforcement uniforms. We have transportation just getting started. What else? Who else do we have in here? I know we got some great people. I know we got some good folks in here. Who else? Yeah, this is it's interesting because a lot of people have been asking me this question. I've been getting it quite often. Eric, how is the supply chain crisis impacting you? How is it affecting your business? So rather than keep answering the question one by one, I said, we're going to come on today. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a discussion. Anyone out there currently on this chat winning contracts, state, local, federal, let us know. Drop it in the chat. Anyone out there on the chat today winning contracts, let us know. Drop it in there. What kind of contracts are you winning? State, local, federal contracts. We're going to get into it today. See, look. CK Ray, I don't even have to tell you anymore. Other people are saying it already. I don't have to tell you anymore. Today should be fun. Sit back, relax, enjoy. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend this weekend. And now you're ready to come here and learn and enjoy and talk about issues that affect all of us, like global supply chain. What is going on out there? I can tell you, yes, I'm being impacted right now. We have suppliers, subcontractors that Again, they're afraid to give us pricing because the numbers are changing so fast. We're having a hard time. All of my subcontractors are having a hard time finding labor, but that's another topic for another day. What you have out there, let me know who's got contracts, who's winning. Even if you're not winning, again, we're either earning or learning. Who's out there earning? Who's out there learning? I want to know. Show me the earners and learners. Let's get some people together. Let's connect. So yes, the supply chain crisis, I mean, it's affecting me. It's been affecting me for a very long time now, since last year actually. So this isn't a new phenomenon, but it is something that we definitely want to talk about. And more importantly, what I want to talk about bigger than that is, right, how do we, we out here as contractors, what are some of the remedies? What are the things that we can do out here? Because it's not enough just to be aware that these things exist, but I want to talk about some of the remedies and clauses in the FAR that address these issues, right? Because that's important to us. So we want to look at delays and stop work orders. What do those look like, right? Excusable delays, terminations. If your contracts are being threatened to be terminated, what does that look like? And of course, I want to give Crowell Mooring and Jennifer Shiles credit for this stuff because I went ahead, they already had these nice, pretty slides made up. And I said, oh, this looks good. So I borrowed them. So we give our people our credit. I'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes today, that all the things we discuss, because this is real. This is impacting folks out here. And so we want to make sure that if you are in this situation and this impacts you, what do you do? If you're in a situation that impacts you, what do you do? K-Ray, this is my first call out for hitting the like button. So we're keeping track. 29 people watching, 13 likes, hit the like button. K-Ray's right. I'm going to say it a million times because I need all the likes I can get. I need all the shares I can get. And if you're just tuning in and you're number 30, then I want to make sure that you show our girl some love over here. She is the Inc. 5000 award winner, number 66, Venus. We just released this podcast. Go and listen. Go and listen. Be blessed by her. All right. Now, let's get back to the supply chain crisis. Let's talk about it. And again, if you're just joining us, let us know your industry that you're in, your city and state. All right. And again, sometimes I don't have names, so let me know who you are as well. So let us know your industry, your state, and you're earning and learning today. I say I'll throw a like out there. Appreciate you. Yes, never mind. I've been at it, brother. I've been at it. Thanks, K-Ray. See, K-Ray, I'm going to make you the moderator since you know the deal already. All right? I'm going to make you the moderator. Perfect. Yes. No, and again, I'm not telling you to stop listening to me to listen to her. I'm just saying it's not often times that we get someone that has achieved such great success at such a young age. And so I think that when we look at it, we go down here, look at these numbers. Buffalo-based Launch Tech ranks 66 in fast-growing companies, 5,682% growth in the last 3 years. Amazing. It's just incredible. So how could I not show her some love out there? All right. Y'all ready to learn today? We ready to do some things? Yes. We're ready to jump into this topic. Fun stuff. Anybody been affected by this? Is this affecting anyone as of yet? Anyone out there have any supply chain issues right now? By the way, as always, my man, one of my podcast guests gave me this. You see what this says, all right? So I'm going to let it speak for me. When we come here today, I don't want to hear it. Y'all see this? All right? Thank you. This comes from one of my podcast guests, Jetco Solutions. Huge consulting firm. Did $3 billion in contracts for their clients. They know a little bit something. They know a little something about what they're doing out here. All right? So let's jump into it. Anybody out here experiencing any type of delays? Yes, no, maybe so. Anybody? Anyone out here being affected by this? I know a lot of people, some of the names I recognize are new. They're just coming on today. But the reason why that this is a great topic for newbies, and not just experienced people, but newbies, is because oftentimes we will get into a situation with the government, and we think that the government's always right, and we think that there's no remedies for us as the small business, as the minority-owned business, as the small contractor, that there's no remedies. And in fact, there are a lot of remedies for us small contractors. And again, remember, I'm speaking primarily about federal government contracting. State and local, I'm sure, have similar remedies, but because I focus on the federal marketplace, we talk about issues and items that affect federal procurement. So we're going to talk about what are some of those remedies. What does that look like if you happen to run into situations as a result of what's happening out here? What should you be doing, and where should you turn to get the information about what to do? Does that make sense? Did I set this thing up right? All right. My man says, yes, having to spend more time sourcing apparel as a lot of suppliers' inventory levels are low and empty. So let me go ahead and let's just jump in real quick. And I think for the most part, we already know the issue out here, what's happening. So I think for the most part, everyone's aware of the issue. You've already seen it in the news. You've already read about it. And then I want to just play this clip real quick.
After weeks of negotiation and working with my team and with the major union retailers and freight movers, the Port of Los Angeles announced today that it's going to begin operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This follows the Port of Long Beach's commitment to 24/7 that it announced just weeks ago. So by increasing the number of late night hours of operation and opening up for less crowded hours when the goods can move faster, today's announcement has the potential to be a game changer. I say potential because all of these goods won't move by themselves. We need major retailers who ordered the goods and the freight movers who take the goods from the ships to factories and to stores to step up as well. Today, Walmart, our nation's largest retailer, is committing to go all in on moving its products 24/7 from the ports to their stores nationwide. Specifically, Walmart is committing as much as a 50.
All right, that's enough of that. So as you may or may not be aware, they now opening up some of the ports, California port 24/7. They've got a couple of ports that's being opened up 24/7 to try to ease the burden of the supply chain crisis. And while that actually is it's taking action and taking steps, it doesn't necessarily help or benefit all of us as contractors in terms of getting relief from our current contracts or the contracts that we're currently negotiating. That doesn't give us relief because we out here are still responsible ultimately for the things that are written in our contracts. So I'm not here to tell people how to solve this problem. I am here to tell you how to solve your particular problem with your contract with the government, and or when you're negotiating with the government, some of the things that you can do so that you are not terminated from your contract. And if you are terminated, what are some of the things you could do if you're in fact you're terminated to recover all of the expenses that you spent out, and also some profitability as well. So again, I'm here to help solve your problems because again, I'm focused on government contracting, not the world's problems. So again, I can't solve the supply chain issue, but I can tell you as potential contractors and as existing small businesses, some of the things that we can do. So again, I've got a couple clips that I want to play discussing that. But before we do that, let's just talk and have a conversation in the chat. Anyone out there? Kenny Lewis says the shorts could get worse. Does anyone out there think that this is a solution? Opening the ports for 24/7. Do we think that that's a viable solution? Anyone out there? I'd love to hear your feedback from the people listening today. Does that seem like a viable solution? Does that seem like it's going to help? Does anyone have any firsthand knowledge or experience with this? I'd love for you to interact and tell me if you have any firsthand knowledge, firsthand experience of this. So what we're going to talk about later on, like I said, I know that there's a small lag in the feed, so I understand that and I recognize it. But yes, If you've got any experience with this, if you work at the port, if you are in an industry that's servicing the ports, let us know. Put in here what you think, what you've seen help that has impacted or has changed the things, or from the way that you saw it maybe a few months ago or last year to what you're seeing happening today. Automation will be the solution. Yes, Justin, I've seen that they are automating ports over in China, which is great. So that's going to help with that issue. But how do we protect our small businesses? How do we protect you and I, the truckers, the people that are actually having to transport these goods? How do we protect them from the inflation and for the prices rising when you've already signed a contract and you've already committed and you're obligated to do something for a certain price? What remedies do you have? And that's what we're talking about. What remedies do you have as a small business out here operating in this space? Because what I see is that a lot of people, and I'll tell you, even within my own family members, I had some family over this weekend, and my niece, her wife said that she was actually afraid of starting a business, and it was something simple like a daycare business, but she said she was fearful because she didn't understand all about the business. And I've been on calls, I've been on talks with folks who are afraid. Maybe you're afraid to jump into this industry because you're not sure what's going to happen, right? And so that makes you afraid. Like you're like, hey, I'm not sure because I don't really know what's going to happen with this, and I don't want to get stuck having to, tied up for a contract, and then I can't do it because the price went up because of inflation, or because I didn't have the right suppliers, or because the people don't have labor shortage. So you're afraid to jump out there because of not knowing what could potentially happen down the road. Does anyone out there feel like that? Is anyone out there feel that they may be afraid to step into this arena because they're unsure about what's happening in the marketplace? Anybody out there feel like that? Just, you don't have to say yes, put a thumbs up inside the comments or the chat if you feel maybe afraid or anxious or uneasy about what's happening right now. And so you're apprehensive about getting into this marketplace as a result. That's what we're here to do, is to let you know that there are clauses out here to protect you. And I don't see enough people talking about that. And so that's what we're discussing today, right? I want to make sure that you understand that there are remedies, there are clauses out here. This is not the first time this has happened. This is not the first time we've had natural disasters or crises. This is none of that. So we want to show you and showcase to you via some of the attorneys out here, what are some of the clauses that are protecting you? What are some of the things that you can do, and also recover some of your costs and expenses if you decide to embark on this journey and things change. Is that fair? Fair? All right. What else we got out here? Welcome, Kenny. Demetrius Walker says there isn't enough warehouse space to hold all that stuff being shipped here. That's right. Kenny Lewis says, I live in New York. Sherry, it's not just the ports being open. You also see an employee shortage where we can't unload them. Get replacement transport trucks on the return trips. I love it. I love it. What else? Jerome, HVAC service repair. All right. So listen, we're going to play a short clip, about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss what happens and what they are saying.
Which is generally found in the H clause section of your contract, where the agency in that particular buying activity might have specific clauses that relate to a particular type of contract. You'll find these FAR Part 52 clauses in Section I generally, the contract clauses section, and again for tailored or full text or special clauses you'll find in Section H. But I can't reiterate again just how important it is to review these clauses to make sure that you understand the ones that are going to be applicable, that you're abiding by them, that you're flowing them down to subcontractors as necessary. Next slide, please. So this is the roadmap. So again, we have a lot to cover. We're going to start with the remedy granting clauses. And these are the clauses that give a contractor a remedy. And we're just going to go over just the common remedy granting clauses in this particular presentation today. But this is where contractors are generally going to be allowed to have an equitable adjustment or request an equitable adjustment for particular actions that happen under the contract. And then once we kind of move from the remedy granting clauses, we'll address these other topic areas as they come. Next slide, please. Right, so changes is the first, common remedy granting clause that we have up. I often say that it's hard to find a government contract where there isn't going to be at least one change at any given time. So it's really important to understand, what these changes clauses are. So the changes clauses govern what types of changes the contracting officer can make to your contract. There are different clauses, as you can see, based on the different contract types. But generally, the clauses list like the permissible changes, and those are generally related to changes to drawings, designs or specifications, method of shipment or packing, place of delivery, description of services performed, or time of performance. And changes under these clauses are generally made by written order or modification by the contracting officer. So those are considered direct or express changes. However, sometimes the contracting officer may make changes to the contract without issuing an order or a modification. And these are changes that are typically due to some contracting officer action or inaction that has changed the contract. And those are considered constructive changes. And they're also compensable under this clause. So these clauses allow the government to make changes to the contract, and they're able to do it without breaching the contract. So therefore, when the contracting officer is acting within the bounds of the clauses that you see here, the contracting officer isn't breaching the contract. Important things to note about the changes clause is that for changes, whether direct or constructive, you have to, under the clause, notify the contracting officer within 30 days or any time that's prescribed in a particular clause or your contract that there has been a change. And the remedy for a change under these clauses is generally an equitable adjustment, which is the cost of the change plus a reasonable profit. So if FAR 52 243-6, which is middle way down the list of the FAR clauses is in your contract, that's the change order accounting clause. It's really important that you take note of that and ensure that you're separately tracking any costs that you may have related to a change if that clause is in your contract. However, if that clause isn't in your contract, we'd still recommend separately tracking costs for changes if possible, just because it's really important to be able to demonstrate the cost impact, and it's much easier to do so if you're able to separately track the cost of the change in some record or some ledger that would be easy to provide to the government. The last FAR clause that we have listed here, FAR 52 212-4C, is the commercial items FAR changes clause. And the important thing to note for that clause is that commercial item changes must be bilateral. Next slide, please. So this slide is going to talk about, we're going to talk about delays and stop work orders, suspension of work orders. We'll start with suspension of work. This is generally for a fixed price construction contract. And under this clause, the CO may suspend, delay, or interrupt any part of the work. And if the government suspension is for an unreasonable period of time due to contracting officer action or inaction, then the contractor is entitled to an adjustment to increase the cost of performance, but there is no profit that's allowed on the suspension of work clause. But it's important to note that, to the extent that you're experiencing a suspension of work issue, that you assert recovery within 20 days of the contracting officer or CO's failure to act or enact. And it's also important to note that if there's some sort of recovery, and this really goes generally, but the clause specifically says if there's some sort of recovery that you can seek under another clause, that recovery under this clause is not going to be permissible. So the next order that we'll talk about is stop work orders. Stop work orders can be issued by the government for 90 days or more by agreement. After the period ends, the government must either resume work or terminate the contract. The remedy under a stop work order for a contractor that's experiencing, cost or schedule impacts is an equitable adjustment plus profit, or an extension of the delivery schedule, or both, to the extent that the contract is impacted both ways. Contractors must assert their entitlement to an adjustment within 30 days after the end of that stop work or suspension of work period, stop work period. For both stop work, suspension of work, and even the government delay of work clause that I'll talk about here in just a minute, I just want to take a minute to note that, like the changes clause where you can make a constructive change argument, you can similarly make a suspension of work or stop work change constructive argument, even if the government hasn't issued some formal letter or order stopping work or suspending work or delaying work. So FAR 52242-17, the government delay of work, states that the CEO action or inaction that affects performance and causes cost or schedule impacts are recoverable. Again, there's these notification requirements in a lot of these remedy granting clauses, and for the government delay of work, it's a 20-day notification requirement after, 20 days after that government delay. And so the final delay that I'll talk about on this slide is the excusable delay provisions. There's an excusable delay provision for multiple different types of contracts. But the key thing to note, and you may have heard a lot about excusable delays, particularly given the global pandemic that we're all sort of living and working through. But excusable delay is defensive only, meaning a contractor isn't able to recover costs for the excusable delay, under the excusable delay provision. And a contractor can seek an extension, or in some cases, the contractor is using that excusable delay as an excuse for reasons for the delay to prevent a termination for default. The excusable delay clause generally enumerates. Some of them enumerate the types of acts that would allow for an excusable delay, and some examples of that are acts of God, strikes, pandemics, for example. But the important thing to remember about excusable delay is that it has to be more than just present. There has to be a cause. The excusable delay has to actually be causing the contractor some delay. And the contractor needs to be able to prove that and demonstrate that there are concurrent delays that it's responsible for as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Skye.
All right. So we went through, and I know it was a lot for people out there, but for the new people that are apprehensive, I just want to share with you and show you that there are clauses here. Let's go back to it. All right, that protect you. And again, it says common remedy granting clauses. So again, if there's any type of changes in terms of, and again, it says suspension of work, stop work, government delay, excusable delay, or default, then there are remedies granting you monetary benefits, monetary changes for that. And so again, I wanted to share that with folks out there, because a lot of times we're out here afraid, and we're thinking that in fact there's nothing that we can do, and that the government's in control. And really the truth is there's always something that you could do. And yes, like Whit said, just in case clauses. So the thing is, going back to what Giant Hawaiian said, in fact, let me grab what he said and put it on the top. I'm going to pin his message. Hold on. Okay. What he said is what? The opportunities are greater than ever. The opportunities are greater than ever. Whenever there's a crisis, that's when people thrive and flourish and succeed. Okay? I don't want you to be afraid. I want you to understand that you are protected. I have contracts right now. We have negotiated contracts where the government, we're telling them that, hey, we cannot give you a pricing right now because our suppliers don't have their prices. Hey, we can't hold our pricing anymore for 30 days or 60 days. We could only hold our pricing for 2 weeks. They are aware of this. This is national news. You are not the only ones out here being impacted by this pandemic. So I want you, again, at the state level, at the city levels, what it does is it's forcing them to make decisions quicker, faster, and to be more decisive. They can't no longer, and we have a story we'll tell you about, they can no longer wait and drag you out 60 days and then give you a contract and say, hey, okay, your price is still valid. The government is supposed to come back to you and say, is your price valid? If it's not, what are the changes in costs? What are the cost increase? They understand this is happening out here. Do not feel that you're locked in to any contract if your costs go up and that you have to eat the money. We've got some people on here already that have been in that situation. They've been in, let me pull it up. All right. They've been in this situation right here, termination for convenience. The problem is, and again, I think Demetrius was in it. I think we've got some other small businesses in it. Sheena was in it, and some other folks out here. We're in it where it's terminated for convenience. Termination for convenience is not a bad thing. Termination for default is a bad thing. And so even when you're terminated for convenience, right, there's still remedies where you can charge the government. They can compensate you for what you have done, even if, in fact, if they figure out that, hey, this stuff was delayed, it can't get here, we already ordered it, and they decide to terminate the contract because it gets there too late, you can still recoup your financial, whatever expenditures you put out, whatever time you invested, you can recoup that from inside of these clauses. And so this is what I want people to understand. This is what I want people to know. And I want you to be less fearful and less afraid out there when you're stepping out there. So let's talk about the termination for convenience real quick. This is about 3 minutes, and then we'll jump back over to the big screen. All right. Give me a second. Let me load it up.
Commercial items contracts, termination for conveniences are a little different. There's a two-pronged method for recovery. Commercial items termination for convenience is FAR 52-212-4L, and it says that contractors can recover a percentage of the contract price reflecting the percentage of work performed plus reasonable.
Did you hear what she said? Contractors can recover a percentage of the contract price. Listen, pay attention. This is not the time to be playing Xbox or playing on your phone. You're here to learn. You know what I like? Jim Rohn says, be present, right? If you're going to go on vacation, go on vacation. If you're going to work. Be present in the moment. I want you to be present because I want you to listen to what she just said. If they terminate, there is recovery. Listen to this. Pay attention. This is important.
Charges. So that recovery is a little different because you're literally looking at, how much have I performed on this particular contract, and then multiplying that out for the cost that you would be entitled to for the work, and then getting those reasonable charges as well. There's also no 1-year requirement to submit your termination settlement proposal under a commercial items contract like there is on the FAR Part 49 termination for convenience. However, we would say and advise that, it makes sense for contractors to submit their termination settlement proposals as soon as possible.
I know she's talking fast. She said termination settlement proposal. All right. For those who didn't get it, that's what she said. Termination settlement proposal is what she's saying.
Just to ensure, that you're getting it and you're getting your proposal in front of that contracting officer who terminated and understands, the contract and in the event that there may be a change later on down the road. And it's always better when you can seek recovery quickly. Conversely, termination for default, things that the term that contractors don't want to hear. Contractors similarly have to, stop all terminated work.
Okay, before we jump into the termination for default, I want folks to understand. One of the things that we brought up in the previous video, I know there's 54 people watching, you might have missed this. In the previous video that we just discussed, there was a category in there, and let's pull it up on here. Dun, dun, dun. Let me find it. My internet's going. I don't know why my internet always bugs out when I go live. I think I'm doing too many things. Give me a second. Okay, so this was something that we brought up in the first video, excusable delays. And excusable delays, they allow you to, uh, you don't recover any money. However, you can seek an extension, or it's a reason to avoid termination for default. So what you do not want is a termination for default. So again, given the fact that there's an excusable delay, and it says here, fires, floods, epidemics, which is pandemics, quarantine restrictions, strikes. There's a lot of strikes going on, freight embargo, severe weather. You can ask for an excusable delay from the government, right? And then what they can do is they won't be able to terminate your contract for default. So I just want to, for those, I know there's 53 people watching now, and you just missed that previous video. Unfortunately, I can't go back, but I just want folks to know that that was what was covered in the previous video. Was we were discussing that. So let's continue back with this termination clause.
And notify, your subcontractors and settle liabilities related to that termination. But terminations for default are much more drastic and have different consequences. We have a note here about the show cause and cure notices. The government may be required to issue a cure notice or may issue a show cause notice. These are notices that you'll definitely want to respond to. These notices are asking you to either cure what's causing you to default, or show cause why the government should not terminate you for default. And it's important that you're documenting why, as a contractor, you think that you should not be terminated, and putting that on record for the government, so that the government has that information before them and has to make that decision, and use that information when it's making that decision of whether or not to terminate for default. So it's really important to respond to those clauses when they're submitted, and particularly when they're required. Also, the consequences of termination default, as I mentioned, it's a drastic sanction for the government, but it's also drastic for contractors in the sense that, the contractor might be entitled or might be required to provide liquidated damages to the government for being terminated for default. The government isn't going to be required to pay for unaccepted work. So if you have a contract where you're delivering simulators and you were required to deliver 10 simulators under the contract, and you only had one simulator, that was actually accepted, one that was rejected, and then a few others that were on the way, for any of that work that was not accepted, the government isn't going to be required to pay. Also, if you're receiving progress or partial payments or advance payments, the government may not be required to make those payments as well. And in addition to not getting paid for some of the work that you may have already performed under the contract, the government can assess what is called excess reprocurement costs. So the government really needs whatever item or service that you're providing to the government, and they can no longer get it from you because you've been terminated for default, or the contractor because they've been terminated for default. The government may look to another contractor to perform, that item or provide that item or perform that service, and may, under the regulation, turn to the contractor to pay for those the cost of that new contractor, the difference. So it's really, really important. I think we've talked a little bit about, notices, providing notices of delays and changes and things of that sort, but also just keeping documentation. So it's really important that contractors are documenting performance, so that they're able to kind of stave off any potential terminations for default. And then also reputational damage.
Did you hear that what the most important part was? Did everyone hear that? What was the most important part of that? What did she say to do? Right? You have to provide notifications of any changes or any delays. So often we are afraid and we're running from the problem at hand, that we think that we can solve it on our own without informing the government. And so we leave them in the dark, and then we tell them only when we have bad news, instead of them keeping them updated as we're progressing, so that they can try to find ways to help us. Because again, the objective is not for them to take advantage of us, because as she stated, a termination default is bad for the contractor as well. Not just us, but the sub agency or the contracting office, it's bad for them. So it's a sore eye on both cases. So having the documentation is vital, as TH advertisement said. Having that information and documenting and communicating with the contracting people is critical to being allowing them to modify your contract so that you can continue working, allowing them to give you a change or an adjustment for prices increase as they occur, and also allowing you to continue on with this project. Because why? We have to express to them that, hey, and again, I know that this may be foreign to some people and this is getting to the legal aspects of it, but I thought that that was super and critical and super important, because you can always go back and watch this video. You can watch those reference videos, and you know now that, okay, if anything goes down, right, I'm covered and I'm protected. And that's really the gist of like the first 46 minutes of what we talked about today. It's just really knowing that if anything goes down, that you're protected, that you're covered, and that, in fact, you don't have to worry like as if you're going to be stuck and you're going to be spending money to do this. No one should be paying money to the government to do contracts with the government. No one, hold on, let me get closer. No one should be paying money with the government, right, to the government to do contracts with the government. You should not be paying money to anybody, right? In terms of the state, the local government, you shouldn't be losing money. You should not be losing money. So again, we're in this to be, again, we live in America, capitalism. We're in this to make money. We're in this to do good business. And if something happens that's of no result of anything that you can control, you have an obligation to let them know this. And the reason why I'm saying, because if we look, and if the president is on TV talking about the supply chain crisis, if all the news channels are on TV talking about supply chain crisis, don't you think the contracting officers are aware of that? But if you don't stand up for yourself, then it's very easy for you to become, I don't want to say a victim, but for you to be taken advantage of because of not knowing the rules and not knowing contract law. And so I just wanted to state that for the 47 people that are watching here, that knowing and having this, and it's part of your arsenal, because what we do is we give you tools, right, to have in your arsenal, your toolbox, so that you can, right, be able to succeed out here. Because if you lose money, then you're more apprehensive about taking the next step. If you get knocked down, you're more apprehensive about taking the next step. I want everybody to keep taking steps forward, progressing. Even if you make a little bit and a little bit and a little bit more, at least that's taking you, you've got the wind behind your back, and that progression is going to encourage you and make you like want to do this even more, make you double down. Like, again, I see everyone in the chat, right? Brian is over here giving advice on working with Crowley, but you know what Brian did? All right. Brian literally took and followed a video that I watched on doing business with Crowley, and then he reached out to Crowley. And then he's got subcontractor with trucks with Crowley. How many other people sat back and watched that same video and didn't do anything with it? All he did was reach out to them, like I said, and then they gave him opportunities. And again, that was something that we posted a year ago. And so now he got subcontractor work with Crowley. It's a matter of whether or not you're going to take action on the things that we're telling you to do. Or are you going to sit back and continue to, as my man say, this. So Brian, while everyone is asking him about the trucking and about subcontractor, any one of us could go do that. Crowley is a household name. Crowley, Magellan. We've got lists on my trucking video. We gave you the list for that. So again, it's just a matter for you to take action and be decisive about what is it that you want to do. So I definitely wanted to share that with folks out here, because I don't want anyone, I keep getting asked the question, what am I going to do? What can I do? And so I want folks to understand that there are remedies out here. I gave you a couple of them, what you can do. There are provisions, even if the government does, for whatever reason, let's say you can't agree to get them to allow you, let's go back and pull it up here. Even if they don't want to give you an economic price adjustment, even if they don't want to give you a price adjustment for your labor or your materials, if they decide right, for whatever reason that you guys can't come to an agreement to terminate, then, like I said, there's still things, even upon termination, I don't want you to be afraid, like termination is so heart-wrenching. Let me ask you this. You know what? I don't want to ask it because then you have to call it out. But there are people, I can tell you, there are people in here in the lives that have been terminated for convenience, and they're still out here doing government contracts. Termination for convenience is not a red flag. It's not a mark on you. She was getting ready to finish up in her speech that says the termination for default is where that's a sore eye on your company. So the termination for convenience is not a bad thing. You could get past that, right? If your company, if a subcontractor or supplier gives you the wrong, let's say they give you the wrong price, right? Let's just say a subcontractor or supplier gives you the wrong price, and you submit that price, and let's say the government gives you the contract for that price, and now you can't do it because the supplier says, oh, that price is for this, but you want this. So now they want more stuff, like what's going to cost double or whatever, let's say 20 or 30% more, 20,000 more than what you priced it for. You could easily, with the government, terminate for convenience, right? And so what it says is, if you look here in the red, it says convenience termination gives the government the broad right to terminate without cause. And so again, you can recover any cost, but normally you probably won't have any cost because again, you're the one that messed it up and you're the one that underbid the project. So again, yeah, that's right, Whit. Old bait and switch. Exactly. So again, you are the one that, hold on one second. You're the one that actually made the mistake and the error. And what you're asking the government to do is to say, okay, look, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Listen, let's just cancel the contract. That's totally okay. That happens to a lot of the small businesses, and nothing bad happens to you, and you keep bidding contracts and you keep winning projects. So that's not a bad thing, and that's what I'm showing here on the screen. Like, that's what happens. But if you have poor communication, if you are trying to like hide what's happening, if you're not being upfront with the government, and you know that this stuff is 3 weeks behind, and you're like, man. And again, I understand. You feel embarrassed, you feel ashamed, and so I trust me, I understand. You're like thinking to yourself, well, Eric, I can't tell them that, man. This is my first contract. Like, I can't tell the government I can't do this stuff. Yeah, you're better off telling them now. What they say, eat the frog. You're better off telling them now that they're having a problem than waiting for them to come to you and ask you, is there a problem? So what I want you to do is realize that, like with Grit say, next contract, move on. You're better off coming in up front, letting them know that there's a problem before they find out there's a bigger issue at hand. Does that, everybody, listen, give me, if you like that, I want a sun. Give me a sun in the chat. Drop a little sun, right? Because again, you get, hey, the next day, the sun shines on you the next day. So don't worry, as we go to sleep and the sun falls, what is it called? No, it rises. And then what's the other word? What does it do? I don't know. It rises and falls. I don't know. Either way, you get another sun. So put a sun in there. It's okay. We can terminate for convenience. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to be a sore eye on you. You get to live another day. If you fail to be honest and upfront and you get terminated for default, you're in trouble. So let's just real quickly, let's hear our girl out as she says this. Real quick. Let's go back over here.
Because contractors and a lot of requests for proposals, RFPs or solicitations, the government's now asking contractors to say or identify when they've been terminated for default or terminated for convenience. And so that's something that's going into decision making for contracting officers when they're awarding new contracts. So there could be some damage there. And also, I just want to point out too that the government can and often does post notices on notices online about terminations as well. So there's just some reputational damage that's important for contractors to be aware of. Next slide.
All right, you heard that. So again, they ask you questions, right? If you've been terminated for convenience or terminated for default. It's really hard to recover when you've been terminated for default. Listen, small businesses, I promise you, you know me, you know my story. I've been in a lot of really precarious situations. I've had, like I said, you know my situation. I've had a lot of outstanding debt. I've been sued, but none of that prevented me from getting future contract opportunities because I never defaulted on a contract. I have 0 defaults on a contract. I have never filed bankruptcy either, which again allows me to have a clean record. And someone told me that, which is the reason why I didn't do it. I didn't file bankruptcy and start a new company. I kept going. So I just want folks to understand that if you choose this one particular way, right, you get to live to see another day. If you are afraid and you stand back and you think that you can get it handled and you fail to communicate, you might not live to see another day. And so it might be the last time that you get a chance to participate in this marketplace. So again, the supply chain crisis brings a lot of opportunities. In fact, I'll share, now that we've talked about the doom and gloom, and which is really not doom and gloom, it's more of just being prepared and knowing what to do, and knowing what your rights are as a contractor, as a small business. Now that we've discussed those particular items, right, let's talk about some of the positive. Let's talk about some of the upswing. Like my man, like Giant Hawaiian said, hey, I have someone that won a contract recently, and it seems like, and I was telling my son this, it seems like every day I learn about small businesses that are winning contract opportunities and they were the only bidder. Now this happened to be in R&D area, but this particular person turned out to be the only bidder of this particular product that they're supplying to the government, and it's going to result in a potential multi-year contract. And so having that kind of information and power and knowing that you're the only bidder is just an incredible feeling, because you can literally almost predict, right, how much money you're going to make over the next few years. And so what does that do for your psyche? What does that do for your confidence? What does that do for your team's psyche and confidence? And also it allows you to know that you can hire people, hire staff, and bring people on to be able to support what your business is and what you're doing. So again, let's look at it as a huge opportunity, because there are going to be people, because again, there's 300 million people in here. There's 75,000 small businesses out here, and there's only going to be a couple thousand people that watch this. And there's only, even out of the few thousand people that watch this video, there's probably going to be 10% of them that actually do something with the information. And so again, I can tell you the people that are going to do stuff with the information, the same ones that put the sunshines in there, right? So if we let's just look at our stats, right? Not to call nobody out, but there's 45 people watching, and we have maybe 13 people that put the sunshine in there. So that means the other, 33 people either don't believe or they don't understand, which is fine. So again, for you, the ones that the 13 people that put that in there, the sunshine's right, that would be the group that I would bet on to go to the next level and to take the information and to do something with it, to capitalize and to execute. Those are the people I would bet on, and I would double down on, because they are good at understanding and following instructions, right? And trusting and believing that this works and that they can do it. And I can tell you, because I know some of the names on there, some of those people are my students who have contracts. So some of those people are the very ones that have already won contracts and have been successful, and they trusted and they believed in the process. I'm giving you the goods. I'm not leaving you out here on your own on an island, right? Unprotected. I'm like, why? Look, nah, Precision, I'm not saying that. Don't try to put a sun in now after the fact. I'm just saying, like, look, this is facts. This is what I deal with. I've had 4 years of experience online of teaching people. I kind of see the patterns, right? I see the patterns. I know the people that are gonna make it, and I can see the people that they're gonna be off to the side, right? That's fine. Look, I get it. It's not for everyone, but what I'm trying to say is that I'm giving people enough information. I'm giving people the guidance, the wisdom. And again, as you see, this was not my words. This comes from, look at that bottom of that screen, Crowell Mooring Law Firm. This is not my words. It came from an attorney. I didn't want to come up here and spew misinformation because I got some haters out here that they mad at me because my channel is growing in the federal arena, and they've been trying to do federal contracts. They've been trying to teach federal contracting for 50 years, and they don't have the viewership and they don't have the stuff. And so they think that my content, like, as if, I'm giving people misinformation. I'm giving it to you from the lawyers. This ain't coming from Eric Coffie. This is coming from a law firm. This is not coming from me. So if they're the ones giving you the wrong stuff, then that's on them. Look, I'm a matter of fact, I'm gonna put them up on the screen, who they are here. All right, Crowell Mooring. This is the law firm. This is where I got the goods from. You think they know a thing or two? Look at their team. Best lawyers in America, 2022, recognized 53 Crowell and Mooring attorneys. 53. Yeah. Look at that. They rank best lawyers in, look, Crowell Mooring, over 55 of the nation's leading law firms in response to Investment Company Act lawsuits targeting the SPAC industry. Okay. Advisors payload and 650,000 seed funding. There, look, U.S. chapter World's Managing Investigations Global Globe. I'm taking y'all to the top. New York Law Journal names partner Jennifer as a distinguished leader. They open a Denver office. Look, Crowell Mooring is top UK law firm for asset-based lending. Hey, they say it come from me, baby. This came straight from these is boss. These the people, the boss right here. Look. International trade. Transactions lawyer. They launched intellectual property self-check app. Distinguished leader. All right. So this is not just me. This is coming from these folks out here. These are the top of the top of the top of people out here. All right. So don't be like Eric said. No, these people said it. These people are the ones that gave you that information. I can't even say it as good as they say it. I can't even tell you like as well as eloquent as that lady put this thing. I can't even put it in those kind of words. They are eloquent and they have the goods and they know this stuff. And so I didn't have time enough to actually recruit them to come on and teach this class. We will reach out to them to try to get one of their law firms on to teach this class. But I promise you, it's probably much more exciting if I do it and just pull their videos in, because they're going to sit there and read all that stuff for about 45 minutes, and I think everybody's going to fall asleep. So I've already been in those kind of seminars and webinars before where the lawyers get up there and they talk, and then everybody kind of goes to sleep because they don't have the same energy that I have. And then they're hiding their face. You don't see what they look like and all this kind of stuff. So I think for me, it's good to be able to show that, because they're the ones that do all the research. They're the ones that are part of the law, part of the process. They're on the boards. My man Brian, welcome to GovCon Starter. Thank you for signing up for a membership. Go ahead and drop my man Brian, put him at the top. So, like I said, we, this information didn't come from Eric Coffie. This information, I'm giving it to you because it applies to us and our situations. And I know what you as a small business, because I'm a small business, I know what you're going through. I know what you're being faced with. And so again, it applies to you and I'm just getting it from them and letting them say it. So you didn't have to go spend the 4 hours of research and trying to figure this thing out. I went ahead and did that for you. I went ahead and figured out that research. By the way, Brian just signed up for our YouTube membership. And so our YouTube membership, we've got different plans, but just for people who are wondering about the membership and how that works, the YouTube membership, we give you access to our 2018, 2019 membership videos. And then there's a lot of content that we have our live sessions on that we put into the members only video. So we have a bunch of lives that I did that we took them off on the public access and we put them in members only section. So that's what's in. You see Brian just sign up in the chat for members only, GovCon Starter. And so he's going to get access to that information that we have from some of these live chats. So we're going to start taking the live chats and putting only pieces of them afterwards, the replays, and then the whole chat, you have to go into the members only to subscribe to pay for it. So listen, again, I mean, we've got 5 coaches out here. Somebody in the chat said they're interested in coaching. We've got 5 coaches that we're working with. So you get to pick, and we've got from IT to, again, we helped Brian, who everyone's looking up to in the chat, and his trucking, put his trucking proposal together. I was on a coaching call today with some students that are, Demetrius, you'll hear from them. They are wanting to join our Slack group for transportation. So again, if you have any problems, if you have any issues, if you're interested, govcondirect.com/join on the screen is where you can sign up for our programs. Also, if you need to call us, 786-477-0477. I know a lot of people ask this all the time. Here's our number. If you want to send us an email, service@govcongiants.com. So, and again, I appreciate those who put the sun in the chat. I'm rooting for you. Those that put the sun in the chat, I appreciate those that gave us a like. Go back and watch Venus's video that we just posted. Stay tuned. We're going to be the membership. So the membership is actually on YouTube. You've got to go on YouTube, and there should be somewhere on your screen where it says join, and it gives you like 3 membership options. So again, and listen, I understand that everyone can't necessarily be in the courses and the programs, and if you can't afford it, that's fine. I understand. So we do have extra additional content in the membership side. So definitely, if you've not looked into it, look at the options. It has a menu of options that are available for you, but the cheapest one is like $5 a month. So, hey guys, listen, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you learned some goodies. We will have all the links in this show notes page as well. This is the last month for our 2.0 course bundle for under $1,000. So it's the last month. Take advantage of that. If not, next month it'll probably be more than double the price. So I'm just being honest with folks out there. I want to let people know what's happening, give you all the goodies. We're going to talk about some other upcoming topics. If there's something that you want me to talk about, let me know. Drop it in here. If there's something, if you're watching this video after the fact and you want me to talk about a specific topic, let me know. And then we will consider bringing that up in some live sessions. I plan on doing more live sessions in the future. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you. Be blessed. Enjoy your night. And we'll see you the next time.